espionage thriller, but there always is. And for example, my first book, Trojan Horse, the lead male character is an oil and gas investment banker on Wall Street, and he falls in love with this exotic woman who turns out as a spy, and then teams up with her because her mission is to try and stop a Muslim terrorist plot to cripple the world's oil capacity. So there's a lot of stuff about there. I wasn't an oil and gas investment banker, but I know enough about it. And there's a lot of stuff about deals, which I know a lot about. So there's always an element of my books that goes back to my days as an investment banker. I don't think you can write about stuff you don't know anything about. You can't just say, I'm going to write this kind of – or you can't write the type of book you don't like to read.
Yeah, and a big thing also that's true too. Yeah.
If you have contempt for commercial thrillers, then you're not going to write a good commercial thriller because you're going to feel like it's beneath you.
Yeah,
I remember it's very funny. My first wife used to read Robert Ludlum and Elmore Leonard when we were on vacation. Okay. And I was a former English major, and I would read literary fiction, and I always kind of looked down my nose at her. Not at her, but at the books she was reading. And then I started reading thrillers, and these are two of my favorite authors.
That's something. Yeah, I remember once I was on vacation, I chose to read Angela's Ashes. I remember halfway through it, I'm like, what am I doing? I'm in the Bahamas.
I thought it was a great book.
I'm reading our kids starving to death,
It's not an uplifting book for reading while you're on vacation.
No, that was bad vacation. That wasn't a summer beach book,
Right.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's true that you have to, and the other thing is, I think in writing, and this is the same in music, whatever, like in writing, the language has to be right. The words have to be right. In other words, you have to know the language of the financial industry, or you have to know the language of police procedurals or spy. But tell me about the Sasha books. Now, how did that come about? Here you are, you're writing these financial thrillers, and well established, and then you write these spy, which I loved. I love the Sasha books. How did that come about? How did you start writing those?
Well, the first book was Trojan Horse.
Yes.
So that was the first one I put out.
And she was the spy in the yes.
Yeah, and that book is still by far my best-selling book of all time. I think I've sold. You asked me the other day when we were at lunch. It was. I don't have the final math. I do keep track of this, but I haven't updated it in a while. I've sold overall. I've got 7 novels and 1 book of short stories and 1 Sasha short story. And I've sold somewhere between 350,000 and 400,000 books overall.
Wow.
And since 2011 when I started, but like 150,000 of those are Trojan Horse.
Wow.
So part of the reason I kept writing them, even though I did have to do a lot more research for those books than I do for my Wall Street, more financially oriented stuff. And I'll come back to that because my financially oriented stuff is not that financially oriented anymore. Because people like the character, and so I want to continue that series until I decide I don't really want to write those anymore, and I haven't gotten to that point. That's one of the ones. That's the one I'm working on now, because it has a following. That particular character, and the big international espionage thriller. Has a following, and that's a big category too. And interestingly, my Wall Street oriented stuff, you made the point that you have to know the language and all that. I found early on, and I used to read Tom Clancy a lot too. You get into these really technical descriptions about how this laser guided bomb works.
How to build a submarine.
I would get into the deal technology to the point where even financially sophisticated people would have their eyes roll back in their head. And I realized that you just can't load a book full of that gunk.
I know.
Because you're just going to turn people off. They're going to not understand it. They're going to get bored by it. So increasingly over time, like Spin Move, which is my latest, and Mickey Outside, which was released before that, are financially oriented characters doing things that are in the financial realm to a great extent, but there's not a lot of technical, detailed finance stuff in there because I wanted to be approachable to the average person.
No, absolutely.
And
I remember Mickey Outside. I think in when
really
I read it,
might take
well, not only that, but it really was almost. I hate to say this to a famous thriller writer, but it was almost like a love story, wasn't it? Like he did all of this.
There's
right?
a love story in the middle of it, and then there's also
but he
a
sort of
B
went
story.
through he went through to get back with the girl, didn't he? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he ended up with the girl. Well, that's good. Now, I don't know if I'm hurting people.
That's a spoiler.
Hurting you here by saying it, but I thought it was really interesting of you. So, let us know, or let the listeners know where they can find your work and what you do and what's going on with you now. Oh, just let me ask one thing about the new Sasha book. Now, I think that you like writing her because you like her. That's the way I look at it. Okay, so
who wants to write about a character you don't like? Who wants to read a character that's not likable?
So give us a little insight into what's going on with her now.
Well, she in Trojan Horse, she's working for the Saudi secret police, and she's working undercover, and she meets this guy Daniel, and they fall in love. And part of the reason that she met him was she was targeting him because she knows that these guys are going to try and infiltrate through the oil and gas business, and they think he may be one of the ways they're going to try and get their way in. So she meets him, and they fall in love. They save the world. In Sasha Return in Arab Summer. It's a couple of years later, and there's a separate plot by these same terrorists to topple the Saudi government. So she's hired freelance by the CIA to go in there and help them stop that. In this one, which I'm calling On Home Soil, is my working title, ISIS has gotten to the point where they now want to export their terror to the West, and they send one of their top guys to the U.S. To build a network of cells so that they can start taking it directly to us over here. So she comes out of retirement again with her boyfriend or lover to help stop that, and that's how the book progresses. That she's that's her current mission.
So it's all going to take place here in America, right?
This one's going to take place here, yeah. Well, I mean, there are a lot of international scenes too. I mean, there's scenes in Saudi Arabia, France, but most of the action takes place over here.
Yeah. See, one of the things that I find in your books that you're really good at writing is action scenes. Like my takeaway from Bull Street was that the chase around Park Avenue, where the circle around Park Avenue was. I remember that scene. I remember from Arab Summer the big gun battle at the mosque and the chase through the streets and jumping in the trucks and things like that. Yeah, you really write that very, very well. So I thought
you've told me that before, and I thank you for that. I was a little surprised to hear you say that because I work really hard on those scenes, and they don't come that easy to me. So it's gratifying to hear that.
Okay. Well, let's talk about where people can find your new stuff and your old stuff, and how people could get to know you better.
It's easy. I mean, the easiest thing to do is either go to my website, davidlender.net, and everything's there, or just go directly onto Amazon, and in the search field type in David Lender, and I'll pop up. They have an Author Central page, and my novels will pop up, or you just go to my Author Central page by typing in my name, and you can see all my novels in there, all my stuff in there, just the novels. I have some short stories and stuff.
Okay. All right. I would recommend listeners to go grab one of your books and just, read it, enjoy it. It's the summer. Sit on a chair and read one of David's books. So
thank you.
We're going to wrap up. Thank you so much, Dave, for being here. I really appreciate it on my first show. You've been a great guest. I do want to end the show with some closing words.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is the first
before you do
show,
that, just let me thank you. Let me thank you and the show for having me on. I've enjoyed it. And thanks, listeners, for listening. Yeah,
and I'm going to see you soon. Soon we'll have lunch. Maybe a drink instead of lunch. How about that?
Okay. All right.
Okay, good. All right. I just have a few closing words for the end of the show. Inspiration can come from anywhere. Recently, after reading from my latest book, a gentleman came up to me and said, "Your story has inspired me to start playing the saxophone again. I don't care what my wife says." So I thought that was pretty cool, since I'm bringing music into the world and I'm annoying a woman who isn't my wife for a change. My hope is that this show will motivate you to pick up that old sax or guitar or a pen or start working on a keyboard. Doesn't matter how you express yourself as long as you do. It's time. Be selfish. Do that thing you always wanted to do. Don't let guilt get in your way. I spent years trying to justify devoting so much time to writing when I could have been doing something more productive, maybe something that would have made money, but I was wrong. Since I started writing, my private equity practice has doubled. By spending some time each day doing something you love, you're giving yourself a gift. Not only will you always have something to do, you'll always have something you want to do. And when you're fully engaged, when you're excited to start your day, it will flow through all of your activities. So do something you love. Do it for yourself. You deserve it. For now, don't give up your day job, but don't ever give up your daydream. With this first show, there are a lot of people I have to thank and a lot of credit to be given out. First is the music credits. Thank you to our composers, Chris Martin and Jeff Harvey. They've been creating music for over 15 years and are highly experienced in all areas of commercial music, with numerous TV credits in North America, Europe, and Asia. They work in studios in Leeds and Manchester in the north of England. We want to say thank you to them for providing the music for today's broadcast. To learn more about their work, you can visit them online at purpleplanet.com. I would also like to give a special thanks to Rich Gelhausen and Lady Seela for their support, and I know they're probably listening in, ready to jump in if I make a mistake. I hope I made them proud, but thank you guys so much. Don't Give Up Your Daydream is managed and directed by Storytellers Campfire radio programs. You can visit online at storytellerscampfire.org, then click on the show page. And if you have any questions or would like to contact me directly, go to johnnuckelauthor.com. That's JOHNNUCKEL author.com. Leave a message and I'll try to get back to you. You can also view my articles and blogs or even check out some of my books. Thanks for listening and be well.
Learning and good nutrition does not end when school lets out. The USDA's Summer Food Service Program helps provide nutritious meals to children in low-income areas so they're better fueled with healthy food to learn and grow. To learn more about sponsoring a feeding site in your community, go to www.summerfood.usda.gov.